There you are, can you all hear me? Is that working? There we are. So the first guy that went in the AFL draft was Jason HORNE-FRANCIS. So he was the first. He was our first big guy. So inside midfielder, can float across the forward line. Maybe a chance there as well, I think, with North to take him into that inside. I reckon they'll start him, across half forward. And I reckon he'll move a bit back as the season goes on. I think they'll learn from Gold Coast, because Gold Coast played very early, if you remember, Matt Rowell. He was very quickly into the nuts and the nitty-gritty of the AFL. And I don't think they'll do that again. I think that they will literally feed him into the game. But this kid is a superstar in every sense of the word. An absolute solid competitor, and one that I think will be a real premier type footballer. He's explosive around the contest, and he's super that modern day bull, but he's got that poise about him. He's got that ability to really change the game. He's kind of like, I would say he is a Matt Rowell on steroids. He's got it all, and he's a super exciting talent. Got it all, physicality-wise, marking-wise. His disposal's pretty good as well. Some question marks on his kicking, but I think North will play this guy, like I say, across the forward half of the ground and then moving back as the years go on, as the weeks go on probably. But I think the warning is there, in my opinion, from players like Rowell. If you play them too early, you give them too much responsibility too early doors, shit is going to hit the fan. And it's going to hit the fan real quickly. Second pick was probably no surprise, because GWS manipulated the draft and said that they were going to do it. And that is father-son legend, that is. And that is Mr. Darcy. And what do we know about Sean Darcy? He is a top-level footballer. Mr. Sam Darcy is going to be a very good footballer. Swingman both sides of the ground. Very versatile. Very good aerially. He's very strong in his aerobic capacity as well. And he's really strong both ends of the ground. And the Doggies, again, they found that little thing, haven't they, the Doggies? One of the best sides in the competition. And they've again got a pick in the top 3 in the draft. Clean footballer. Is he ready to go, though, yet? I don't think he is. I think, in my opinion, he's a little bit behind Jamara in his readiness for elite football. I think you might see this guy mid-year. I don't think he's ready. He's certainly not ready to play in the ruck. I know he pinch hits. I think you might see him around that round 10, 11, 12 mark. I think he'll start in the VFL, but he is a very accomplished footballer. I do think, though, you've got to start asking questions as a fan base, though. Is this fair that a side that's made the granny has another pick inside the first 2? In my opinion, I don't like it. I'd like to see it go. But Mr. Darcy, Wuthering Heights, like you say, Stuart, he's a top player, though. He's a very top player, and he's going to be a very exciting talent to see in the next, in my opinion, the next couple of rounds. You'll see him mid-year, I reckon. Then pick 3 for you Collingwood fans out there. You'll be very excited with this one. Nick DAICOS, game changer. In my opinion, he is the best player in this draft. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, we tell a lie. We've jumped the gun. Finn Callaghan was next. Checking my system. Finn Callaghan. We'll talk about Finn first. GWS, they finally settled on Finn Callaghan. I think this guy is very underrated, and I think that, in my opinion, I think GWS have had a favour here, and Callaghan has slipped to them, and the bid was matched. Finn Callaghan is an absolute jet of a footballer. He's really everything you want in your midfielder. He's that new tallest type midfielder. He's accomplished on the outside and on the inside. He is real penetrative with the ball. He's got clean skills. And more importantly, his disposal changes games. In my opinion, if you would pick one, you could have an argument for this kid. And I think it's only because DAICOS and Horne have such physicality, and also that Darcy is landlocked to another club. I think that's the only reason you see he has maybe not been top 3. But in his own right, without these, I actually thought he was in the top 2. But he's a supreme footballer, and he suits the GWS philosophy. I don't think they've got a player like Callaghan. I know there's a lot of talk that they always go mids and it ends in tears. But for me, I thought this was a great pickup. A really, really solid pickup. And I really like this one. Then at pick 4, for you Collingwood fans in here, Nick DAICOS. Now, this guy here is an absolute dynamite footballer. Without a shadow of a doubt, in my opinion, the best player in this year's draft is this guy. And I hate to say it because he's a magpie. But he is the kind of guy out of all these top 10 that I would say is the type of bloke that is going to come in day one and you're going to get something from him. He has got the skills, in my opinion, that change games. Like your Sam Walshes, the kind of guys that come in day one. Now, all the negatives you have about Nick DAICOS, the Mickey Mouse, his size, his impacts per kick. What this guy does in his 5 minutes is game-changing enough. And in my opinion, when you look at players that are in the AFL that are similar, and I would say I'd be looking at blokes like, your Dustin Martins. When they have 5 and 10 minutes, the game moves away. This kid has got high IQ. He reads the play. These kind of things you can't teach. They're very hard to teach, and he's got it. Collingwood have absolutely had a belter here. An absolute belter. Is he better than Sam Walsh? No, I don't think. I think they're two different players. I think it's impossible to compare them in that avenue because they're different styles. This kid will do things offensively that Walsh probably can do, but won't do it as frequently. Will he, though, be able to control the ball in the midfield? DAICOS isn't that type of player. If you have both of them in your team, you're laughing. Walsh, the better all-rounded player, but for pure offensive threat, this guy has got it all. An absolute jet. Up next, then, we had Gold Coast. They took McAndrew. Now, this is a pick and a half. A pick and a half. And if you're a Gold Coast fan, all 4 of you, you're chomping at the bit here, because this kid is something very special. He's a prototype, though. He's the ruck forward, giant leap. He's got all them traits you expect. He's already got an absolute phenomenal ruck ability. And that is the one that I always look at with these young rucks, right? Because the rucking, I think, is such a niche in the AFL, and it's an understated role. He's also incredibly clean. He has shades of... He's kind of like a hybrid between Grundy's athleticism and his mobility and his ability to find the pill. But also Gawn's just dominance and his ability to really be physical but graceful at the same time. And he can swing forward. He's a slow burn I've put there because I don't think you're going to see this impact day one. And I don't think he'll play until the back rounds of this year. I don't think he'll play until then. I do think there's a chance he might play the third tall. They might do him that way. They may even look at swinging him back because his athletic ability and his ability to take marks, I think, will be brilliant. Will be brilliant. I can see it. The ruck-wise, though, I reckon you are going to look at Wits for a couple of years. But this kid waiting in the wings, if Gold Coast can keep him, they have nailed it. They have nailed it with this pick. A real astute pick. A real astute pick. And a real good pick. And one that I'm really excited about seeing develop. Up next, we know that I talked about this kid a hell of a lot this year. And I'm gutted he's gone to Adelaide. Because Adelaide is one of them teams that I can't stand. And that is Josh Rachele. Steal of the draft. Already I'm calling it. Been following this kid for the last couple of years. Someone that I talked about I wanted to take if Carlton kept pick 6. Absolute jet. Clean as a whistle. Evasive. Natural goal kicking. He's a bag of tricks. He is the kind of kid in today's game that you look at and you're like, Jesus, we've got a player here. We've got a player. He's got it all. Adelaide, they probably need a type of player like this as well. They've nailed it. You can see he comes from the soccer background in his ability to work in a confined space very quick. He's got pure skills. The similarity to Toby Green, I don't think does him justice, because I think Toby Green doesn't do the things this guy will be able to do in the next 2 years. I think when you redraft this kid will be top 3, top 2 even. He's an absolute true talent. I'm really excited about seeing this kid play. Kind of glad it's Adelaide in a way, purely because I don't have to see it. I can watch it in a nice way. Good day to you, Stuart, Malcolm, Rafi, Chris, Kev. How are we all doing? Yeah, Josh Rochelle, Adelaide, really solid pickup. Really happy with this one for Adelaide. Adelaide will be stoked. Up next, Hawthorn. Now, Hawthorn, they had a lot of options on the board here, and I had a sneaky feeling that they might go this fella, and that is Mr. Josh Ward. An absolute real... This is the kind of player that I think Sam Mitchell will rub his hands with, because he's already there. He's a crafty thinker. He works inside and out. He finds the ball. He is, in my opinion, the natural guy to take over from Tom Mitchell. He's got that huge engine, which Hawthorn, it's a must. Can you keep up with the play? You look at how Box Hill played. It's very old school Hawthorn. And he's got it. Decision maker, clean skills, that big engine. He also knows where the goals are. He's also captained his side as well, natural leader. This kid will be a jet for Hawthorn. And I think if I look at the places Josh Ward could go, I think this is the best place for him to be. I think Hawthorn, without a doubt, is the best place for him to be. I think he's going to really improve massively. He'll definitely get game time very early doors. He's as close to ready as you can possibly be. And I'm a huge fan of this type of footballer. It's a great pickup from them, an absolute steal as well, because this was such a contested position. He fits the bill. Up next, Fremantle. Let's have a look at what they got. AMISS. Probably no surprise here for me that Freo went here. We talked about this earlier in the month when I did my previews and who I thought would go where. I did have AMISS going here, and he's a brilliant footballer. Brilliant footballer. The cream of key forwards. I would say when you look at Darcy's ceiling's higher, but the consistency factor from AMISS, in my opinion, is far better. This is the kind of player that you want in your team. It's going to get you your 1 and a bit goals, 2 goals a game. This is the type of player. And I think Freo desperately needed this type of player. I think that they've got enough to kind of hide this guy for a year or so. But this guy reads the play really well. He moves really smoothly. He really presents supremely well. His kicking technique as well is top notch. And he'll get games early doors. He'll suit the Fremantle philosophy. I love this pickup by Fremantle. I think they nailed this pick. They absolutely knocked it out the park. Up next is Richmond. Now, this one was a tough one to know which Richmond would go. And there's a few players around there. And it was tough to know what they do, I thought. And I love this pick. Josh GIBCUS, key defender. They probably haven't had a player, in my opinion, like this on their list for a wee while. And I'd say that if you actually look at their list, this is probably the logical way to go. The logical way to go. He is supremely quick for his size. And he's kind of like... I'd say a Tom Stewart would be a good comparison for me. And he really suits what Richmond are building. And you'd say Richmond are kind of not in a rebuild, they're in a reset. And this kid can play from day one. And I think with what they've got, the tools they've got down the back, he's ready. I'm really excited about this pick. I think Richmond have done really well. I can't reward Richmond enough because there was a few there that they could have had sniffs at, I think. And they could have maybe made the mistake but they didn't. They went the logical way, and GIBCUS is a fantastic acquisition. Real smooth, real exciting little talent. If you're a Richmond fan, you're really excited about this pick. Really excited. It's a very solid pick, and I think they nailed it as well. Richmond did well. Now, obviously, Old Fremantle, they had a few picks here. What were they going to do next? Now, I don't think this is a surprise here, and that's bringing in the legend that is Big Neil Erasmus. He is a very, very good footballer. Can play in the midfield, can play in the forward. One of these modern-day type midfield forward players as well. One of these modern day. And in my preview, I had them taking Erasmus, and it doesn't surprise me. 188 is that tall midfielder that can slot across the forward. And I want you to think of, with this pick here, in my opinion, he gives me kind of that he could play the third tall, even though he's not that height. He kind of gives me that kind of like Lockie Whitfield type vibe that this kid could be anything. I wouldn't be surprised. He did do a bit in juniors as well, swing across the halfback flank, because he really impacts where he goes. He's really refined inside and outside, really strong forward craft as well. He's got a really, really good goal-kicking technique as well. And midfielders that can kick goals are as rare as rocking horse poo in the AFL. But he accumulates the ball. And also his impact is really strong. He doesn't mess about with the ball. He's already got that AFL engine. And he doesn't have that lightning speed. But you don't have to be quick when you think with this quick. And he thinks with it quick. So, in my opinion, I really like this pick. I think Freo, so far, knocked it out of the park. Knocked it out of the park. Really have. Then we had St Kilda, and it was interesting where St Kilda would go, I thought. Because there was a lot of talk that they may just, bite the bullet and take Mitch Owens early. And I didn't think they would. But I didn't think they'd do this. And they took NASIAH WANGANEEN-MILERA. This kid fits it. He is Brad Hill, but with bells and whistles. A real great acquisition. And he fits, I think, what St Kilda are trying to build. And I think if I was a St Kilda fan, I'd be super stoked with this one. Because he's got everything that you look for in these outside midfielders who he's pure class, really. He's got the skills. He uses the ball well. He's really evasive. He takes the game on. He looks to penetrate as well. He looks to attack. And I think that, I know some of the question marks from some of them were his inside game and stuff like that. Doesn't matter. This guy will skirt packs, live on that, put his cleats on the wing, and he's going to be solid. And he's ready to play round one. And he's a game changer. Good to see you, Magpie. Good to see you, Kev. Hey there, Shannon. Real solid acquisition. St Kilda have done really well here. And I can see him, slotting across the halfback flank to start with and see where you go from there. Now, if you're a Carlton fan like me, you'll be very glad to see that Port threw the curveball here. And they took the player that many people had going to Essendon. And that is Mr. Josh SINN. And this was a good acquisition. Absolute jet. And I think it's something that they probably don't have. And the thought of having Josh SINN lining up on the halfback flank with Amon in front of him, with his ability to take the game on and look for that handball and play the 1-2, is something that would really excite me if I was a Port fan. Magpie season DAICOS, absolute brilliant pickup at 4. It's a steal with the clear number 1 player in this draft, in my opinion. But Josh SINN, absolute fantastic get for Port. They nailed it. They may have felt a bit disappointed. There was rumours that they were looking heavily at Wanganeen, but he's gone for it and he's brilliant. He's brilliant. And I think this is a great acquisition for Port because of his skill set. I don't think they have it on the list. I think he's ready to go. And I think just that thought of Amon and SINN on that flank, really good. He's not better than Walsh. Different type of player. It's like HORNE-FRANCIS and DAICOS, different type of player. One's going to be Donovan. One's going to change games with his ability to do it. And DAICOS, for me, best player in this draft class at changing games. But really good. But to cope with Essendon's disappointment, I thought they did really well here because I think Ben Hobbs, in my opinion, has slid. And it's a great get. So with every disappointment, it's all about how you look at it. Ben Hobbs was still there. Essendon get him. I'm kind of surprised that they went with this type of player, but it is what it is. But he's a pure inside midfielder. Draft comparisons to Taylor Adams, so you know what you're getting. Contested work, clean hands, strong around the ball, tackling, clearance specialist. He gets his hands dirty and he's got the frame already to do it. So he's a really good acquisition and he's got a really good midfield core there at Essendon for him to work his way in there. He's going to be getting his hands out and I think it does probably help Essendon in the terms of, I think sometimes Shield gets drawn into doing that work where I think you want Shield hitting the ball at pace. And this is what Ben Hobbs does. He's a real good link, a real good conduit. And his improvement in the last year or so as well, in the small handful of games we've seen, is really, really good to see. But it's really good acquisition for him. He finds the ball, he's tough, he suits the Essendon young approach. And hopefully, for the love of Christ, we don't have to hear about Cox anymore. And they'll start talking about this melt a little bit. Up next, the Eagles. And I love what the Eagles did here. I love this kid. We talked about him a little bit earlier on in the year when we were doing draft profiles, and that's Campbell Cheshire. Solid acquisition. And another player that I think, if Victorians had a bit more footy, would have been in the top 10. Now, I want everyone to bear this in mind. If you're Victorian, usually you see about 10% of the top 40 really jettison from a year ago. And we've been kind of starved of that here in Victoria. And he's one of the guys that I was looking at last year that I thought, you know what? This guy could have a breakout year if he gets football. Had that meniscus injury, ruled him out of the business end of the year. So real raw product. But this kid has got something. He works hard, plays on the wing, plays on halfback, that general defender midfielder type. And he's got an engine and he works damn hard in attacking phases and defensive phases. Absolute stellar pickup and he suits. When you look at the West Coast Eagles and you're like, who's retiring here? There's about 2 or 3 names that you say this kid is just penciling himself in. Real good place for him to go. Needs to improve, I think, maybe more on his pressure acts. I don't think he gets near enough to his defender, his opposite man. But elite kicker, elite user of the ball, looks to run, looks to break lines, suits the West Coast philosophy like a glove. So real good pickup for them. I'm excited about it. Then we had 15 and we had a man that a lot of people have been talking about. And this is probably one of the bolters we have every year. And GWS have done well here. Leaky ALLEER. Again, someone that when you look at them and you're like, Phil Davis is probably not going to be around forever. Natural son and heir, Leaky ALLEER. Absolute stellar footballer. And GWS will say, you know what, we've done really well here. Finn Callaghan and Leaky ALLEER, we've nailed it. And I'd say it's between them and Fremantle for the best one. I'd love to know what you guys and girls think in the comments. I know you're having a debate about who's better at the moment, Walsh and DAICOS. We'll just be privileged that we're in a time that we get to see these boys play. But this guy is phenomenal. He's got ALLEER type vibes. The fact he peels off his man, he knows when to go and when not to. There's no rush as well with GWS. They can build this guy in, but he's got it all. He attacks the ball hard. He invariably loses a contest. He's got that already. He's got that brain as well. And under the right tutelage with your Davis and co, this kid will go on from strength to strength. I think he's a project. I don't think you'll see a lot of him year one, but you certainly will do towards maybe the back end of the year, next year moving forward. And he's a 10-year player. And we've got the benchmark of these type of players, haven't we? We've got ALLEER and Magic Door. They know these guys who have got real skill sets like Leek and how you phase it in. There's a template. And he's an absolute jet. Absolute jet. Could have easily gone top 10. And the fact GWS have got him, they'll be like, you know what? We can lean on this kid for 2 years. We've nailed it. He's an absolute brilliant footballer. And I'm really excited about seeing this guy play. Then we've got Brisbane. They went, I thought, probably again, another guy that I thought, it was so hard to predict, could have gone earlier, but they went Darcy Wilmot. And absolutely brilliant player. I love that, Stuart. Hopefully we get Leek. He could be the Liam Jones replacement. Darcy Wilmot, he ended up at Brisbane. And this is really exciting for Brisbane because I would say that they have got interceptors there. But in my opinion, this kid could really take the game on. He's a real damaging user. He's got that like Rory Laird type ability to use the ball, pick a pass, and really change the game. He's a kid that I think Brisbane will get the best out of very quickly. And when I look at how Brisbane play, and I look at the kind of skill set this guy has got, his ability to run and carry, looking for the play, looking to make the ball, breaking lines, he fits it straight away. And I think there's a huge option for him to becoming an elite level wingman as well. And I think that being at Brisbane is a great place for him. It's a great acquisition for him. And I'm really excited about seeing him go up. Then we've got a guy that was probably taken, in some people's opinions, a little bit early. And Richmond's really utilising the fact that they haven't had a first rounder for a long time. That's Tom Brown. And they've really gone hard here. A nice rebounding machine. A real quick ability as well to change defence into attack. He's a really solid player. He's familiar with what it takes as well to be a Richmond boy. He's got all them facets that you look for in a Richmond footballer. And Richmond have done really well as well. They've done really well with their draft picks. Did he go early? Could have done. You could argue that he has. But I think when you look at the way he moves, they haven't got that. And with Hooley going, this kid is the natural replacement of Basher Hooley. And he's ready game one. That's what's so important. He's ready game one. And he's got it up here. He's got the footy smarts. You can't teach footy smarts. You're either born with them or you're not. I'm a firm believer of that. It's the same with all sports. Absolute jet of an acquisition. Then Sydney. Sydney doing what Sydney do best. They spring a surprise, don't they? And good friend of the channel. He was a big fan of this guy. Me old mate Josh Klebs, he was a big fan of this guy. And that is none other than Angus Sheldrick. And he is a guy that probably is a victim of the indecision in Victoria. And he's managed to sneak his way in. Contested specialist. He's strong in and around the ball. He can kick goals. He's basically Golden version 2.0, but more of a midfielder. They've done really well with this acquisition. And you can see Sydney are one of them teams that when they draft, they turn me on more than many other clubs because they make a decision and they go with it. And you can see again that Gus Sheldrick comes from one of the greatest establishments, Claremont. He's real strong, captaincy Mysterio, works hard, suits the Sydney way. And Sydney, honestly, again, as always, just go in, do their business, no messing around. And I love this little pickup. It's a really good pickup by them. He'll be a star. He'll play early doors. He'll fancy himself breaking into that round one, I'd say. I wouldn't be shocked to see Sheldrick round up round one. And then the next guy we've got, Melbourne, the reigning premiers. There was a lot of options here, I thought, for them. But I think they did the right one. Swingman. I like this one. Jacob Van Ruin. I really love this pick. When I got off my live stream earlier with the girls, this was one of the names I wanted to see. Where did he go? And I think nailed it. Can play both ends of the ground, and he's a physical beast. He's ready to play today. And knowing when you look at what Melbourne do and how they've developed their youngsters, looking at Luke Jackson, very clever, another Western Australian, really good thing. He's going to have to work on his endurance and get himself ready, but physically he's ready. His ability and his skill set's ready. And I think you might see a Luke Jackson with this guy. Just slowly build him up. And there's definitely a hole in the Melbourne's list, I think, for a guy that can swing both ends of the ground. He's an absolute elite talent. And again, someone that I think maybe after the bye, I'd be keeping tabs on this guy in the VFL. If I'm a Melbourne fan, fingers, toes, unmentionables are crossed. And I'm hoping to God this guy gets some VFL time because he's a really, really good talent. He's real strong, he's brave, he goes back in the ball. And I think that looking at the Melbourne list, they've got that wonderful rotation. I think he slots in it from the bye. I won't be surprised to see this kid play 6 or 7 games this year and be really ready to go. Then finally, we had Brisbane Lions. They had one more pick. And again, Brisbane are a team like old Sydney. They see what they want, they know what they want, and they go hard for what they want. And that's Kyle LOHMANN, Victorian. Not a lot was... He wasn't a lot talked about, but he was a guy that really did show bits towards the back end of the year. And I know he has been on players' radar. And we love a flux. We love a flux. We really do. A lot of people had this guy, believe it or not. He ranged anywhere on mock draft boards of all the top people from 21 to 49. So that is a huge thing. But this kid's got it. Little forward, general forward, 185. Real strong athletic ability. When the ball hits the deck, this kid is really good, really strong, really wonderful, really, really fast. Uses it, mops it up, gets his head over the ball. He's strong in the air. He doesn't mind climbing up the back of a player as well. And he's got a team-first mentality. He looks to bring players in and around. And Brisbane will really like this because he's learning off, probably now with Betskoin, the king of his craft in Charlie Cameron. And Kai's going to learn from the best. I'm really excited about this acquisition. I'm really excited. So let's talk about the two numero unos in the draft, I suppose. The two ones that we talked about. I know there's a few Collingwood fans in, and I know he's been talked about. Nick Daicos. Benjamin T. Hayden absolutely nailed it. He's more of an assault type. For me, when you compare Walsh, it would be like comparing Walsh to Toby Green. They're two different ends of the ground in the terms of that. And I think Daicos is a superior player in the attacking phase. Definitely. If I wanted someone running inside 50, Daicos is the one I'm choosing. If I'm wanting a player to win me a flag, hard, I'm choosing Walsh. Walsh is the better all-round player by a long way. But Daicos' ability to change games, and I want you to think, when you think about comparing players, think of Dustin Martin 2017. Probably won him the flag. It's what Daicos can do. Bread and butter. In my opinion, if I had pick one, Daicos was pick one all day. And that's even over Horne, who we'll talk about in a minute. But I love Daicos. I do love Daicos. I hate to say it because he's a pie. But tell you what, honestly, believe me when I say this, we are in a privileged position that we get to see Walsh, Horne, Rao, Daicos go at it, because this is a real strong 10 years with some of the players that are coming through. Then when you bring in King, you bring in Mackay, you bring in the King brothers, Jackson, Oscar Allen, some real talent all around the ground, your Wheaterins and players like that. Really exciting time. But Daicos is brilliant. And the other one here, again, hard to separate them, Jason Horne-Francis. He is a contested bull. And I'm really excited about how North use him. I don't know if I know there's a few North fans that do follow me. I hope you're in chat. But for me, North, they're looking at this guy, and I think, in my opinion, I think they'll play him across half forward and move him back. I think all these clubs will have learned, players like this, if you do what you do with Rao, in my opinion, Rao is an injury away from his career never reaching the heights. And I hope Gold Coast ease him in, because he plays similar way. He's like a red rag to a bull. He attacks it hard, but he is explosive, man. He's explosive. He's basically Cripps with pace and goal kicking. It's unstoppable. If he puts the size on, he's looked after. He'll be a jet. Now, these are the two that you want to compare, Walsh and this guy. These two going at it. I reckon, in my opinion, 5 years' time, finals watching these two, it's going to be absolutely grouse. It's going to be like Cooter versus Carey. It's going to be them type of things. He's an absolute star. Absolute star, Jason Horne. It's just, in my opinion, I think you can buy players like this that do a job. Daicos is a rare. we get one or two of these in the draft. Not the quality of HORNE-FRANCIS, but you don't get many DAICOSes in the draft that can change it. For me, you've got him and Rachele. And in my opinion, I love Rachele, but DAICOS can do it. Horne is domination. He's the man that you build a team around. DAICOS is the boy that you need these guys to get to. But real solid player, Jason Horne. So let's have a look at maybe what will happen tomorrow. And some players that maybe we're looking at and saying, how the hell are they still there? So this is one that I've talked about a lot. Josh Goater. I love Josh Goater. And I am shocked. My boy, Josh Goater, is there. Absolutely shocked. Absolutely, like, surmised. I am shocked, baffled. He is brilliant. And I'm looking forward to seeing his name read out tomorrow. I am really, really excited about hearing his name come out and seeing what happens really with him. Seeing what happens with him. Because, be interesting, because you look, I reckon he'll go to Geelong. If I'm putting money on it now, I would say I think that this kid will be at Geelong come tomorrow morning. I'm surprised he didn't go there. I really am surprised. I don't know what anyone else thinks. Is there anyone else that you guys and girls were looking at? But like for me, he is one that I really thought we would see his name come out of the hat. But I do think he's going to be a Geelong boy. He's a great pickup for Geelong. He suits what I think Geelong are about. I think what they need. I think when you look, that team is an ageing team. And I know we joke about it. And I hate taking the piss out of other clubs. Well, I don't. But I just don't like doing it because my team's in a bit of a mess. But he is a really, really exciting talent, is him. And I'm looking forward to seeing where he goes. The other one I'm looking forward to seeing where he goes. And he's my choice to go to Carlton. And then there's my choice of what I think will happen. And that's Blake Howes. I think this guy will... I'd like him to end up a Carlton player. I don't think he will, but he's the modern day wingman. And I think Carlton lack a wingman of his ilk. I really do. I think he's the modern day ruckman as well, in the wingman in the terms of he's tall. And everyone nowadays who plays ruck is tall. See Nick Cox. Everyone goes on about it. He's definitely that player that I think suits the bill. He uses the ball well. He's an exciting little talent as well. He's someone that I've kept an eye on for a while. He's someone that I'd like to see Carlton go with. I really hope Carlton have... That's the pick that I'd like to see Carlton go with. Do I think they will? I'm not too sure what they'll do, but he is what I'm looking forward to. He is someone that I think suits what Carlton want. But whoever gets him, like we say, this kid is ready. He is ready to go. He is a very, very quick footballer. He uses the ball well. He's got incredible skills. And he's a guy that I'm really excited about seeing. I do think he might end up at old Geelong. I've got a feeling that he'll end up at Geelong. And I think he's going to be one of them players that some of these clubs will kick. You know, like we did with Devon Robertson, everyone kicked themselves that they didn't pick him up. I think he's a guy that's been forgotten about. And I think, in my opinion, he is someone that is... He's there. He's there to be used. He's there to be used. So, who do I think Carlton will pick up? Well, there's no surprise here. But I think Carlton are going to spring a bit of a surprise in the draft. Let me just make this look sexy for you, because I like to make sure that we're doing the right thing. But I'm going to put my neck on the line. Now, I went early, and a lot of the AFL media now are copying me. I don't want to say they're copying me, but they do appear to be copying me. But I called it earlier this week, and everyone started to copy me. But I am going to put my nuts on the line and say that we go with Connor MacDonald. Let me just bring him into the picture for you. Get ready. Sorry about this. I'm using a new system, so this is totally new to me. But there you are. There is Connor MacDonald. And that is Pom's prediction, who we end up with. I think this is the guy. Now, inside midfielder, quick, naturally accumulator, real strong tackling. I think Carlton will have identified, even though they talked about half forward and wing, I think that they will have identified that they lack tackle pressure in the midfield. This kid brings it. Now, I want you to hear me out of what I foresee from watching Connor. I've followed him for a while now, and I'm not surprised that everyone's jumping on the bandwagon because I thought I'd completed life. I thought I'd completed life when I said Connor McDonald, when I recorded that with Terry, and then everyone started to jump on the bandwagon. I have a little Gaff vibe with this kid. Now, hear me out. He's an inside midfielder. He's very strong. He accumulates the ball. We know all that. He's got good pace. Now, he's got a decent engine on him as Connor. Now, it's not elite, but it's good enough, right? His kicking comes under a little bit of question at times. Now, I've got a feeling that Carlton might play this kid on the wing. He's fast enough. He's got the engine. And I get that Gaff vibe of someone that when you watch Gaff, you think, how are you not playing full-time on the ball? You get the ball, you're cleaning traffic, but then he was converted to that outside player. This is it. And honestly, I'm telling you, Carlton take Connor McDonald, they've nailed the draft. They've nailed it. I'd personally take Blake Howes because I know he's a wingman, but I'm going on a gut here. Going on a gut from watching him play, and I can see him working that, and I think Voss will want a lot of rotation. So from that, and that process of elimination, I've thrown this kid in, and I think he definitely will be. I think he'll be a Carlton player. Hold me to that. He'll be Howes or him. But that's my pun prediction. I'll give you a couple more players that haven't gone before. If you've got any questions, throw them in. It's great to see Azza James, Stuart McQuaid, my boy, my Scottish brother. It's great to see Saint as well, my boy as well. Great to see you in chat. But another guy that I was surprised that didn't go, and I'm a huge fan of this kid, Sam Butler. And as you can see there, similar to his brother Dan. He's one of these guys that if I'm you guys watching the draft, look out for him. Ready-made. Ready-made. And I think he's an absolute acquisition. I could see Geelong going here. I could see Geelong taking the punt. Maybe. I could even see as well Richmond taking the punt. Hawthorn have got two wonderful picks. Definitely a player that Hawthorn could utilise as well. So watch this space. And do we need any more midfielders? Another tall defender or key position player? I just don't think there's any in the draft. I think Rhett Bazzo's probably your best bet for a tall defender. I just think that when Carlton will look at Rhett Bazzo's best position, which is the third man up, down back, I think that they'll back themselves in with Kent. I think they'll back themselves in to try and get Marchbank right. I think they'll see themselves paying $700k for McGovern. He can play that role. He's a very talented footballer, and we've talked about Rhett Bazzo a lot in the lead up to the draft before Carlton traded 6, because I thought we'd go Rachele 6. I just think that that's it. I think that's it. But like Saint says here, 10 to 30, I think is... You're splitting hairs. A couple of names mentioned in the chat. Let's talk about them. I agree with this one here. Jesse Motlop's there. I've got a feeling that Jesse Motlop will end up at Fremantle. I've got a feeling that Jesse Motlop will end up at Fremantle. I just feel like that they'll take him. I think he suits what they're trying to build. And I've just got a feeling that he may go there. Be an interesting one, because this kid is very talented. He's got X Factor, ticks all the boxes. He's someone that I do really excited about. When I look at what's to pick before us, I can just see Fremantle taking him, and I think it's a logical step for them. The other guy that has been mentioned in chat, and quite rightly so, this is someone, because there's also Arlo Draper there as well, which does surprise me, but also, as Saint correctly says, Tyler Sonsie is still there, which is a surprise to me. But this just shows you how tough the draft is. 10 to 30 really now, you're splitting hairs, but this kid's got an elite kicking game. this might be someone that Hawthorn look at, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Hawthorn take Sam Butler and Tyler Sonsie on the back that this kid, Muzzle said that. He's an absolute elite kick, and he's someone that I think Sam Mitchell will chomp at the bit to work with. But who do I reckon will debut for Carlton this year? That's tough. I wouldn't be surprised. I think you'll see Jack Carroll at some point in the year. I think Jack Carroll will definitely play this year without a shadow of a doubt. It'll be a tough one to see, but I do think, Jack Carroll will play. I wouldn't be surprised, if I'm honest as well, to see the draftee play. If it's Connor McDonald, I would not be surprised to see Connor McDonald play round one. In all honesty, I think he is good enough to play round one, and I wouldn't be surprised for him to put his hand up very early to do it. Who else have we got there that hasn't played yet? Lewis Young obviously will debut. Hopefully not, but I wouldn't be surprised back end of the year to see Carlton maybe give some game times to Alex Murkoff and maybe Boyd. But Carroll definitely, for me, I would say would be a walk-up start at some point. And I could see Carroll moving onto the wing a bit like McRae, who was his draft comparison. I think that Carlton will look that a lot of wingmen have been converted with them elite engines from inside. But like you say, Mozzle's spot on. Tyler Sonsie isn't picked yet, which is huge in the grand scheme of things. But like we say, I think this will be Carlton's pick up tomorrow, though. I think Connor McDonald will be a Carlton player. Hopefully, I would love it to be Blake Howes, but they're my two. Hey, Chris, my friend. Great to see you, my brother. But that's it. I will be live again tomorrow. We'll go through who's been picked up by Carlton. We'll make it focus. But as always, thank you so much for joining me. It's a pleasure. I owed you a stream today, but it's great to see you all.